So welcome to the lunchtime lectures, Tantra with Shaft at MINDVALLEY, and thank you again for all coming. My name is Shaft Uddin. I'm a Tantra teacher, a transformational rock star. I travel the world inspiring people to fall deeper in love with themselves and each other and the planet. I am a somatic trauma release therapist. I started off my career as a music video director, a graphic designer, an art director, working in advertising for 20 years. So understanding how big ideas can be condensed into something small, I applied that psychology into esoteric practices. So I went very deep into the world of tantra, mantra, yantra, and all the magical things around the original form of biohacking. And I didn't read a book about any of this stuff. Like I still to this day don't read books. I just go straight to the author and learn from people. That's how Tantra was taught, through the somatic connection from Guru to Padawan. And it's very much like Star Wars. You have your Jedi Master, you learn these magical skills, and you do actually get really good at a lot of stuff. Like I was never a public speaker until I started doing a thing called kirtan, bhajan, singing devotional songs. And every time I would sing, I would hysterically cry, because there was something going on in here and I couldn't speak up. And then during devotional singing, it took me back to a memory of when I was 8 years old. And I had this memory when my mum said, I was singing, my mum said, "Why are you speaking like a goat?" And from that moment, I never spoke ever again. But because of singing devotional songs, I realized there's a memory lodged in part of my body, which then got released. And with the methods I've learned through somatic trauma release therapy, I applied that with my mummy, and I confronted her about, "Mum, remember that time when I was 8 years old and you shut me down and it was Christmas and you were really busy?" And she said, "I don't remember that, that never happened." I said, "Mum, I know you're never going to remember that, but I want you to know it did affect me." And I was then going to ask her to reprogram my subconscious mind by saying the things that I wished my 8-year-old boy had heard. But by a miracle and by grace, something happened. So I express that this happened to me when I was younger. We finished the conversation, and during this time, like, this talk is all about the art of Yoni worship. My job as a Yoni healer, Yoni worshipper, is to go into the body and take out the stories. So during this same time where I was activating my voice in 2017, my father was really ill with a stroke. And I used these Yoni de-armoring techniques and this conscious touch and healing touch that I use on women, on my father. And no, I didn't give my father a Yoni massage. I just used the same techniques on the vagina, on his body. I made him cry, but I also knew the best way to get him back into his body was to talk about Allah. He loves Allah. They love Allah over there in Bangladesh. So I got him to teach me the call to prayer. He does the call to prayer in the local mosque. So what happened was, to connect with him and to get him out of his state of being in a stroke, I just got him to connect to his passion, which is Allah, doing the call to prayer. So he taught me the call to prayer, which is almost like devotional singing anyway. So together we did the call to prayer, which was Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And my mum came running in and she says, "Wow, you have a beautiful voice. You rocked the house." And from that moment, I was able to speak. And I literally felt my inner 8-year-old go, "Now I am free." I did no training in speaking. None. I just became really good at it because Mummy said she loved me. She loved me anyway. I just needed to hear her say it. From that moment, I went to London, 2017. I was never a public speaker. And I didn't know why I couldn't speak up either. Like, even at high school, I always knew all the answers. I never raised my hands. I ended up getting a job in advertising, and during the brainstorms, I already knew how to win the pitches for, like, Samsung or Coca-Cola. Like, we used to have these big brainstorming meetings, and I used to just doodle, because I just couldn't speak up. I already visualized the campaign, and I knew we were going to win anyway. And my employees would say, hey, my employers would say, Shaf, what are you doing? You haven't said much this meeting. Again, I'd be like, nothing. And they would be like, what are you doing over there? I'm like, I just do some comic book sketches. And they were like, okay, you just crack on doing you, Shaf. I was a bit of a genius and a maverick, so they just let me be me. I was very, very successful in the world of advertising just because I was a genius. Like, all I had to do was make pretty pictures. For me, it wasn't a hard job, but I couldn't speak. But I always delivered. They actually used to call me the midwife because I always delivered. That was always a running joke. But when I actually discovered my voice and started to understand why I couldn't speak, on 2017, when I went back to England, I also realized that I was hiding behind the way I moved. Like, I was a professional dancer on stage. I was given workshops and hiding behind workshops and exercises. I never fully owned the stage. So when I got this new toy, my voice, through this healing from this memory that got released, and then going to mummy and dad, my mum, and her saying, you have an amazing voice, that freed me up with a new toy. And now I love speaking. Now I don't need all these gimmicks and slides and anything. I just create a virtual simulation in your head for my stories. I did do at MINDVALLEY a couple of years ago Eric Edmead's Speakers Academy, which was really, really amazing, but it just confirmed everything I knew. Why am I telling you a story about my speaking journey when this whole talk is all about vaginas and worshipping Yoni? It has everything to do with it. My job is to make not just women, but everybody feel safe. Safe enough for you to be yourself. I give people permission to be themselves. I'm me, and I'm pretty awesome, and I work on being awesome, and I have to be really good at just being myself. I go to extravagant lengths to be seen and understood, and to be on these stages in front of hundreds of thousands of people. And I'm okay being in front of the stage in front of hundreds of thousands of people, and also being okay with just 10 people or 2 people. But I made sure through this ancient tantric practice, I activated my body. It's not a lot of reading when it comes to the world of embodiment and tantra. There's only so much knowledge you can fill up your brain with. I recently listened to Neil Donald Walsh's Conversations with God. And we're not really here to learn more, we're here to remember. The work I do with Yoni worship and Yoni healing is actually peeling away all of the tension and trauma that we've applied to our bodies to protect ourselves. When I was little, when my mum told me to shut up, I protected myself, and I thought at that time, to get mummy's approval, the best thing I could do was not to speak. And a lot of the times in life, something happens, especially in an intimate moment, where someone would say something and we will shut down. Or someone will do something and we will shut down. And then we wouldn't feel safe to open up again. My job as a tantric therapist, as a space holder and a healer, this is all the things I used to do for the past 10 years. My job is to listen. And I'm listening to the body rather than their stories. When it comes to working with me and working with my clients, I make sure they write down their stories on a sheet of paper. Because I know for a fact, I'm not the first person that they've shared this story with. I'm like probably the millionth person that they've said this story over and over and over again with. So I just have it on a piece of paper. I skim read it because I don't read that good. Well, I'm actually really good at reading now. I recently became really good this year. I'm 44 and figured out reading, so I'm kind of excited about that new toy now. Because I can start reading the old tantric texts. Anyway, so I skim read their stories. I get them to talk about the version of themselves that they want to be. I have this amazing pattern recognition around people's stories. You listen to hundreds of thousands of people's stories over and over again, you'll notice a common thread, especially around sexual trauma. And then if someone says this, this, and this, my brain will go, here's a toolbox, pick out this, this, and this for this particular person. And it's through repetition that I became really good at my job and listening. And when it comes to a session, I can see literally in their body where the energy is stuck. And my job is to go deep into the body, and I'm going to go more into the how in a minute. Go deep into the body, see where the movement of energy is stuck, do a very simple technique, trigger point release, and then release it. And often there's a sign. It's either some kind of tears, energy in motion, emotion being released, pleasure, pain, something happens in that session. It's very shamanic, and all I have to do is not freak out and go, oh my god, they're hurting. It's like actually encourage the person to keep on breathing, to keep on feeling, and to slowly release that pain, that tension, and then breathe into it, and eventually a miracle happens. I hold on to this piece of pain and tension that they've held on to, which is their story, and very often their identity. We do love our traumas. Some of us do carry them as our trophies. It becomes a part of our identity. I hold on to that piece of trauma and tension. I feel the muscles spasm and release. And in that moment, their tight panic breath releases. It goes into a normal breath. And through that breath, pleasure can take over. And a thing called love allows that space to expand. And then from that place, you can start to see a little smile form on their face. And then they start moving their body in a way that they've never moved before. And that's when Kundalini Shakti energy starts running through their body. Shakira says your hips don't lie. Very activated people. They're not like rigid and stiff. They move a little bit different. People who have, you could call it sexual energy, you could call it life force energy, you could call it chi, you could call it Kundalini energy. But when you have, let's call it life force energy for now. I don't want to confuse anything at the moment. Your life force energy is moving. You move differently. Your hips are a little bit more looser. Your spine is more active. And you might even be really good at dancing or doing bachata or salsa. You might be a little bit more charismatic. You might be a little bit more confident. And you might identify as being a little bit more sexy. So this allows you to feel your body more. This allows you to connect with your body more. And this allows you to connect with other people more. If you have had some kind of sexual trauma and you're working through it, this may help you feel more safe around the opposite sex or the same sex or the sex that caused the trauma in the first place. Now, what is trauma? It can be as simple as some words said to you in a very vulnerable space. I've had women with issues around their breasts. And I've seen breasts from all forms of small breasts, big breasts, fake breasts and breast missing or all breast missing. Like, I've seen them all, and there's some issues around it. It's not the physicality of their breast, it's the stories attached to it. And again, I'm like Sherlock Holmes, listening to their story around their body. And someone has installed a program into their body that have made them cover up so they don't show their body to anyone, or eat lots of food so they put on so much weight that no one will approach them because they haven't learned how to say no. Or they would overly share and be on the other spectrum of that and start to disrespect their own body. So there's all these nuances on the way they behave because one person said one thing during a very vulnerable state, maybe when they were young, or maybe when they were making love or being with a partner, and they said a code. My last girlfriend had bigger tits than this. Or, cover up. That's shameful what you're doing. So these tiny little codes, these little sentences, get lodged inside of the body, and it's up to me to listen to their stories and find out when that happened. And that process is super easy, because we're always running these programs. We're always running these movies inside of our brains. But very often, especially with talking therapy, for some reason they haven't gone back to the root cause. They're just talking about the current problems or the problems that have been caused. Now, my job as a Yoni healer, Yoni worshiper, I'm talking about boobs at the moment, we'll go to vaginas in a minute. My job is to listen to the stories, go back, find out the story that was actually said, say the words that might have been said, and then all I got to do is flip it. What were the words you wished you heard when you were 8 years old? And they will give me the script, a code, and a mantra, so to speak. And all I got to do, and my work is somatic, so through touch, is very consensual. They know what they're coming in for. There's a website, sacredsexualawakening.com. Write it into your phones. It's very clear what I do. So they know what they're coming in for. They have to fill in a form. I get the stories. I send them an invoice. They pay. We have an interview, and they come in for the sessions. So back to breast. So they tell me what they need to hear. And whilst I'm giving them a heart massage, a breast massage, or a somatic connection to the place of trauma, then I install the new code into their breast, their heart, or a certain part of their body. I'm talking about the chest at the moment, the heart at the moment, because I'm just trying to get you to understand how non-invasive it is. It's very simple. If I jump straight into vaginas, then you're going to have other thoughts. So let's ease you into this understanding of what I'm doing. Like I said, it's very basic. No one's really doing it. In talking therapy, the doctors aren't really doing it. Trust me, I've had a lot of trauma and nothing worked given to me from the doctors, the NHS, where I'm from in England. It was actually terrible. The pills that they gave me around my traumas didn't work. The drugs and the options that I had were not very good. It actually made me worse. So when I discovered Tantra and all these things through the body, in one session I was able to release my own traumas. In one. So back to breast. So I would massage someone's breast, say what her 8-year-old self would wanted of heard, or like, her 21-year-old self wish she heard, instead of the thing, your breasts look big. My ex-girlfriend's breasts were bigger than yours, or something like that. It'd be the opposite of that. So she'll just tell me, and I would massage her breast, relax her nervous system, and say, you have beautiful, perfect breasts. And I would massage her, and she'll be able to relax her nervous system, I'm whispering it into her ears, so it's connecting into her subconscious mind, and she's able to feel what I'm saying while she's feeling it into her body. And that's anchored into her body. That's just breaths. Now, sexual trauma, that's a form of sexual trauma, by the way. What I actually do is around here. Trauma, especially sexual trauma, happens in the area where sex happens. Like I said, it can be a word, but if it's an action, then there's a specialist method that I use. Yoni de-armoring, Yoni mapping, a shamanic Yoni healing. These are my services that I provide. It's been a 10-year journey of providing these sessions to women, from festivals to cities to ashrams to co-worker spaces to talks to workshops to being in front of, again, hundreds and thousands of people talking about this stuff, bringing awareness around this stuff. Viral videos that have reached millions and millions and millions of people around this work. The reason why it's viral and the reason why it's having so much impact is because certain methods are not working out there. Certain methods resonate with women and men. And the methods I've created come from the best teachings out there. But also from repetition, working with the same modalities over and over again that come from ancient teachings from eons ago. So this simple method, you could even do it to your own body now. Just find an area of tension in your shoulders. If you're working in front of a computer and you're doing this, hunched over, you're definitely going to have something in your traps. It's usually like a little lump, a knot, we call it, of muscle. So I found one immediately. And all you're going to do is just hold it down. And you should feel it like either melting, moving, and you're going to breathe into it. And when you breathe into it, and you're placing just one finger on it, it should melt away. If you can feel it like moving, melting, say, oh yeah. There it is. It takes a bit of time. Yoni de-armoring, it's like labor intensive. So I still have like my finger on my one, and it's melting. It's still going, and I'm tracing it to another muscle. And now there's another muscle that I have to hold and de-armor. And that's gone away now, and like I have to breathe into this. And now that area is pleasurable. So I have to do that for 2 hours on the inside of a woman's vagina. That's my job. It's labor intensive. It's called trigger point release. Very often in the West, I have noticed that when I'm working on the inside of the vagina, and like I said, it's a process. I do not go in there straight away. Let me give you the process so your brain could understand this, because you're probably thinking, he just goes in my vagina straight away like a gynecologist. No. That is not what happened. So people even get traumatized by the gynecologist, and I have to help women heal from the gynecologist. So let's talk about trauma in the vagina first. Let's say the vagina, the yoni. So I'm going to use the word yoni from now on. The yoni is the oldest Sanskrit word for vulva. It means sacred space. The opposite of that is what I have is a lingam, and that means the shaft of light, which is the oldest Sanskrit word for a conscious cock. The conscious cock was once known as a healing tool to heal women, believe it or not. A lot of women be like, that's not true. Dicks can't heal us. They traumatize us. Well, guess what the opposite of being traumatized by a dick is? And women are being trained at the moment that your pussy, your portal, is a healing, like ceremonial grade pussy. It's for healing. Well, guess what? There's the opposite of that as well. I'm here to bring balance to the Yoni force. Like, I have a dick, I have a conscious cock. I've trained my nervous system to actually feel more. The fact that I'm amazing with my hands means I'm amazing with my lingam. I had to train myself to be able to listen with my whole body. I mean, that's why they call me the Yoni Whisperer. So, when it comes to my sessions, again, it's written down on the website. It resonates with a certain type of woman. I look like me, so your vibe attracts your tribe. So I'm going to attract people like myself. Super powerful, super sexy, super wealthy, super successful people. That's me. That's my self-identification. Your vibe attracts your tribe. So I'm working with the most powerful women out there, impact leaders, actresses, lots of incredible women, or women on the verge of breaking out to superstardom. And they're the women that I help. There's other people that will help other people. I work with the 1%, I'm working with the high-level achievers, because I'm one of them. So, again, if you're a healer and you're at a certain level, you're going to attract your type of person, because you're at a certain level of your own story. And if you're trying to get somewhere, you will also attract that type of person as well. So all your healers and practitioners out there, see the type of client that you want, or become the type of client that you want to call in. So my clients, they already have boundaries like a ninja, or they don't know what their boundaries are, but they're very powerful and they're quick at learning. Their pattern recognition is pretty smart. They're clued on, but I can't work with everyone. If they're highly intelligent and only read books, and they're super smart, and they could talk about every single book around sexual trauma, but they can't get out of their head and into their body, I can't work with them. It's not going to work. This method's not going to work. Unless they do horse riding, they do pole dance, they snowboard, they do hula hooping. Something that is an embodied practice. If they do that, then I can work with them, because they know how to get out of their head and into their body. Basically, getting them into the flow state. That's where I'm trying to get them to. No mind. In fact, has anyone seen this film Soul, where he plays the piano and everything goes blue? That's what I get you into when I'm working as a Yoni healer. Getting you into that bliss state, into that flow state, basically. Now, I ask certain questions, so it helps a woman to feel vulnerable, to open up, so their intentions, their fears, their desires, their boundaries, their sexual health, what would this session mean to them? I have a script that allows, when I read the scripts, it allows them to drop deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into their body. There's a letting go ritual where they take off their clothes. I always ask for consent. I consecrate my space, so it's like a religious practice. I always say, may all the energy created from this Yoni healing session be taken up to the collective consciousness to help raise the vibration on the planet. May Shiva and Shakti flow through us in order for us to reach our highest potential. May we be touched by grace. So intention is here, and during this session, may you reach your galactic orgasmic self and meet God and meet yourself and fall in love with yourself, or whatever it says on the sheet. Again, their codes, I just read it back to them. They're doing all the work for me. My job is actually so easy. And then we go into the session. And I ask for consent, is it okay to touch your body? And I'm working with a certain energy called unconditional love. I feel unconditional love in my body, channel it into the heart of my palm, and my nervous system connects to their nervous system. We breathe together, and as my nervous system's super chilled because I've spent £10,000 on my therapy, they feel my presence, and they feel my confidence, and they also feel my love. And in the session, I'm not going off script. Everything I do in the session. They know what they're getting. So there's no predatory energy. There's no unexpectedness. And everything I do is so slow that it gives them permission to relax. And in that state of relaxation, heart wide open, they start to feel the slight nuances of energy. And in relaxation, they don't have this tension in their body. So the body starts to relax. And then I get a lot of coconut oil, and I just do my movement practice, and I hold their body. So their body feels safe in a masculine body's arms. So there's not this taking energy, but a giving energy. And for the first time, that in itself is healing enough for them. And then from there, I ask for consent. Is it okay to open up your heart, give you a breast massage? And again, I've talked about the breasts earlier. A lot of men, we do love breasts. I mean, the reason why we love breasts is because without them, we would have died. So, we have a lot of gratitude for boobies. So when it comes to sexual intimacy and connection with another guy or in love, a lot of people just grab boobs and they don't know how to massage boobs. So I'm helping them connect through opening up the heart. And the more you massage the heart and the breast, the more oxytocin is released. And the more pleasure you feel, more trust you feel, and the more you're able to open up your heart. And with that energy, I bring it down to the yoni, and then from there, they're able to open up and relax their pelvic bowl area, which often has a lot of tension. And if they have had some kind of sexual trauma, usually what happens is they haven't been able to say no. And they've allowed something to penetrate them before they're ready. So very often something will go in and the yoni starts to tense up, and very often it just stays tense after a while. And if something is trying to go in and she's tense, she doesn't feel safe enough to open up. My job is to listen and to ask if she feels open, if she's ready to allow anything into a sacred space. And getting her consent, what I do is I just place my finger at the entrance of her yoni after warming up her whole body, warming up the outside, awakening the clitoris, and starting to feel the juices flowing. And then from here, I just place my finger. And I don't penetrate her. She takes me in. So when she feels ready, I would say, I'm not going to penetrate you. You're going to invite me in. And the way you're going to do that is squeeze your PC muscles and release. Squeeze your PC muscles and release. In that way, her yoni is actually sucking my finger in. And in that way, she, for the first time, feels like she has all the power. It kind of changes the way she perceives her vagina, where someone's just penetrating her and taking from her, to the point where she has all the power. And she's actually doing all the work. And it's not work, it's pleasure. She's hungry, she wants something inside of her. And that reframes that whole connection around penetration. And that's so simple for me. It's what I do every day. It's pretty basic. But for someone who's never experienced that, again, that in itself is life-changing for them. They got a new perspective on how to use their body. They're not being violated anymore. They're actually taking something inside of them. And then from there, I do the trigger point release. I just place my finger inside of them. I don't do anything. So my nervous system again is connected to their nervous system. I'm not nervous and shaking. Am I doing this right? A lot of men do that because they have a lot of performance anxiety. They don't know what the woman is thinking or feeling. There's not been a container set. So a man in this space, and no one really knows about yoni healing or anything, so if it comes to just pleasure, they'll just remember what they did with their last partner. Or what they saw on YouTube, on some kind of thing they see on the internet. And the movement that a lot of people see on the internet is this back and forth movement. I've been doing this work for a really long time. Not once have I ever moved my hands back and forth. I work in America a lot, and I was fascinated to see how men in America approach this type of work. Men in America, very rich, very successful, very confident. They don't need help with this type of work. No one's ever complained until they come across somebody where they've had so much trauma that the way they're doing the movement practice isn't working. So these men are very successful, very smart. They actually want to be a good lover, and they want to help their lovers and wives heal. So they do come to me, and they actually want to crack this code. It's just another part of their big awakening of, they know how to be millionaires, that's easy. They haven't cracked the intimacy code yet. So that's what they focus on, and that's when they find me. So very often I teach them my techniques, and then if I just don't say anything, they go back to their movement practice again. I'm like, dude, what did you learn? We didn't learn this. You need to unlearn this. So place your fingers inside and just do nothing. Just listen. Now, there's a beautiful thing that happens when you do nothing. It doesn't matter about the size of the finger or your penis. People who suffer from penis dysmorphia, let's call it, the yoni is so smart, it will mold itself to whatever size penis you have. If it's massive, it will mold itself to a massive penis. If it's tiny, this big or this big, and trust me, I work with men who have really tiny penises. Even if you put this in there, the yoni will bring itself to the lingam and wrap it around it. But it needs a bit of time to mold itself around the lingam. A bit like how it connects to the finger. So I can feel it molding itself to my finger. Now we're connected. We're fully connected. I'm inside of a human being. And she's allowed me in. And we're actually connected on the most deepest, most vulnerable, most intimate way. And then from there, I do the labor-intensive work. Following, like we did with the shoulders. And there's all these different muscle groups inside the yoni that attach to different parts. My job is and in the West, when you're inside of a yoni, the inside feels completely different. Every woman's different, but I've noticed a common thread. Very often the inside feels like wet marble. Like really, really shiny marble. It's not meant to feel like marble, it's meant to be nice, squidgy and soft. So when I feel that, and you can feel the muscles around the yoni, I have to press on the middle of the muscle, let's say this, it spasms, releases, then I can feel these hairline fibers, almost like wires inside. And I have to trace it to the beginning or the end, but then there's a tiny rice-like grain that I press, and that slowly releases. This process takes time. Sometimes it's not a one and done 2-hour job. Sometimes it takes a few sessions. So that is my job in yoni de-armoring. And a woman during this time, multiple things could happen. She could be howling and screaming, and my job is to allow her to scream and howl and release. All emotions are welcome in these sessions. They also know that it's my job, so I'm not going to judge them if they cry. And it's messy. It's messy. Has anyone done ayahuasca before and you puke and shit yourself? It's messy. Healing's messy. So a woman would be crying. There would be snot coming out of her face. There'd be some tissues if she needs to wipe her face. Like, it's messy. It's not like, oh, I'm perfect and sexy and someone's touching my vagina. It's like, you go for it. This is the first time in your life where you don't have to perform. So that's one way that she might release. Or she might have a past life regression. Something random will happen where she'll be taken back to an alien ship where she was a blue alien and she sees her past life as an alien. Like, I've got these amazing articles and reviews of these shamanic experiences women have felt in my sessions. Or she had a baby, something happened in childbirth, and it fucked up her hip. And forever, she hasn't been able to get out of bed properly because her hip hurts. But then I release something from the inside, and it's released a trapped nerve, and now she doesn't have a bad hip. Multiple things can happen. And every woman is different. So after these 2 hours, they're able to feel more. And the side effect of this really echoes in the rest of their lives. They're a little bit less stressed. There's a little bit less tension in their body so they could actually relax a little bit more. There's a little bit more spaciousness. But also the fact, now there's different types of healers and Yoni practitioners. A lot of women in this day and age prefer to go to a woman because they feel so unsafe around a man that they'd rather choose a woman. A heterosexual woman would rather go for a woman. If they go with a man like myself, then they feel more safe around other men. If their trauma came from another man, I've given a great anchor and a great representation of the divine masculine where they feel safe around men. They feel more connected to their inner masculinity, and they could eventually feel more connected to daddy. Because the actual side effect of this stuff goes all the way back to their relationship with their father and mother. How is it all connected? It's all connected. So the techniques I use is listening to their stories, getting the codes from their mouth that they need to hear and replay it back to them. Something happened in their past. I got to reverse that find that story, pull it out of their body, and re-imprint them with a better story. Very often in these sessions, they're able to heal the connection with the masculine, the pain that they suffered, and eventually it goes all the way back to their relationship with their father. And then from there, they're able to heal the connection with daddy. Daddy always loved them. He just didn't know how to express it. They're able to accept their father. They're able to forgive their father. And eventually, they're able to reparent themselves and become their own father. It's not just daddy issues, it's mummy issues as well. And like, I've given sessions as public demonstrations, and a woman would be openly crying in a demonstration, and people would actually see what I do. I would say, where is this pain that you feel? And she's uncontrollably, hysterically crying, you know, the ugly tears where it's just uncontrollable. And you don't know where you are. You don't know if you're 8 years old or if you're in the present moment. She's triggered, which is great. Like, I love it when they're triggered, because that's the whole point. Trigger, point, release. So I've hit a point in their body, inside their vagina. She's triggered. I get her to locate it in her body. and I get her to reparent herself from that moment of trigger. What is a memory? What does it look like? Replay the memory. What do you wish you had heard when you're at that age? What are the words? And I re-imprint her. And then I get her to become her own mother. So it's a really beautiful practice. It's actually very simple. And I'm very, like there is something terrible happening in the world of healing at the moment. And I certify people in my methods. And that is a lot of people make assumptions. And I've seen more damage caused by healers than good. For example, a woman will go to a woman and a woman's intuition, like a stranger, the client, will go to a woman or a practitioner. And during the session, the practitioner will say, you were molested by your father or you were molested by your grandfather. Now, in a very vulnerable state, someone who has never met this woman had, they call it a download, or I call it an assumption about a person. And now in this space, this woman has imprinted this woman with potentially a fake memory. And I've seen this happen and heard about this, and I've had to help women heal from this. And then, now she's got this new memory, which may or may not be true. It's an assumption, it's still not real. So now they go home, and from a healing session, they have to unpack this. So they have to go to their family and find their grandfather or father and confront them and see if this memory that this random person had a download around, because she's a person of authority telling somebody what they might have experienced. Then they have to go and confront the family, and it destroys families. Not only does it destroy families, sometimes, very sometimes, this woman gets sectioned by the family. I'm giving you an extreme case. If you ever go into a healing session and someone gives you their perspective, it's not the truth. Oh, in a past life you were burnt as a witch. Now you have to heal the connection with your mother and your sisters. Who knows? It might be true, it might not be true. In my sessions, I'm just a guy, very logical, and my job isn't to make assumptions. My job is to listen to her stories and just say the things that she said back to me. So it's just a word of caution from my reality. And my reality isn't your reality. I've just been in the game for 10 years, and I don't want anyone to get fucked up or sectioned or ruin families. Get the healer to encourage you to feel more and release more, rather than them imprint you with their assumptions. I'm very strict on this stuff in my training. So from that space, once we've released the tension and the traumas from the Yoni, then I have another session, and that's about mapping. I create a blueprint on what they like. How they like to be touched. Do you like air touches, watery touches, firm touches, fiery touches? Usually, according to your, this is just something I noticed, according to your star sign, you like the type of element that you are. So I really love this. I'm triple air, so I like it. I notice that women who are Tauruses or men who are Tauruses, they like really grounding, firm touches. If you're Pisces, you might like really wet, oily, sensual touches. So I just noticed that in my sessions. It's kind of interesting. It's like a fun little puzzle around people. So if you're dating someone and you talk about signs and you find out their element, play around with it. It's a fun little game. So finding out what they like, their touches, how they like their breast to be touched, how they like the outside of their yoni to be touched, the inside, helping them discover, like, witnessing how they like to self-pleasure. I always learn and teach by monkey see, monkey do. We're really good at mimicking. So if a woman comes to me with anorgasmia, the inability to have an orgasm, like the doctors have given them a label that they're broken and they will never feel pleasure again. I'm like, that's not the case. It's super easy. If you could breathe, you could have an orgasm, and I get them to breathe, and they have orgasms through the breath. So they already know that pleasure is possible now, rather than a doctor said you can't do it, so you can't do it, and that becomes their trophy and their story. But this stuff is easy. It's just basic buttons on humans. From there, they show me, like, if a woman can't feel pleasure or orgasm through penetration, then I will say, can you reach an orgasm by yourself? Very often they say the words, yeah, super easy. I'm like, then there isn't a problem. Show me what you do it. Okay, monkey see, monkey do. You're left-handed. Instead of going circular, you're going like this. Okay, you're a stroked type of person. Can you demonstrate the pressure on my hand? Oh, a really light touch. Okay, so let me do that. Is that okay? We're going to have a number scaling system from 0 to orgasm. Orgasm being number 10. 9 is the point of no return. 8 is like really orgasmic, and the rest is just pleasurable. So do it by yourself. Let's figure out how quick you're able to turn yourself on. You went from a 0 to an 8 very quickly. Okay, great. Pause there. Let me take over. And then I'm adjusting, moving. She feels comfortable. And it's just really logical. It's a no-brainer for me. It's just very logical. It's not like a mystery. If a woman could get turned on at the age of 3 by a side of a table, become a table, is what I always say. You just have to listen. Find out what they like. Ask the questions. I'm talking to the men or the lesbians out there. Just listen. We've got to ask the right questions. So, monkey see, monkey do, I mimic, and then boom, they have their first orgasm with another human being. Again, it's changed their brain patterns. It's like, okay, it's possible. I've given them a window of opportunity of what's possible now. And then they feel it in their body, and it's like, oh, I'm not broken. I'm actually have a healthy, happy body. I want more. And what does the human body do when it like gets to a certain level? It wants to grow, but also it gets used to something. And it knows that there's more potential in the body. So from a clitoral orgasm, then we work on the inside, the G-spot, the A-spot, the Kundalini area, and awakening the cervix. And I find out which is their favorite spots, top 2 favorite spots. Now, the clitoris and the vagina, vaginal orgasms, they run up a different nervous system. And the internal orgasms, the cervix, the A-spot, anal, full body, everything runs up a different nervous system. So the ones that run through the internal implosive orgasms are more powerful and more healing, and it's another part of the nervous system that's being awakened, and it gives you more life force energy. And it can reverse aging. It affects the whole body rather than just pooh, a little firework here. And the little firework here is amazing because we have little fireworks down there as well, and it's amazing. But with the same techniques used on a man, we also can become multi-orgasmic and separate the orgasm and the ejaculation. So my job is to map out a woman's pleasure pathways, make a note of everything, send it to her in a WhatsApp, so she now has a blueprint that she could relay that very logical data that I've collected to her man, who has a very logical mind. So the woman, instead of speaking, she shows him on a practical level what she likes on his body, and then he can figure it out. And this is the biggest transformation in women. It's like learning that a man speaks like a man and a woman speaks like a woman. If you speak to the man mind, which is just logical, black and white, it's like bum bum bum, this is what I like and this is how it works. Instead of shutting him down, saying what you don't like, and then basically they just don't know any better. Their inner 8-year-old boy gets shut down, they get angry and defensive. And my job is actually to bring harmony between men and women, so they could actually start communicating better. like I saw something recently on the internet, which is like, instead of like, having something and saying to your man, what do you feel about this? He's not a feely guy. If you say, what do you think about this? He could give you a response straight away. And for him, like, he's not dating another dude. He's like dating a woman. So he needs to know, hey, what do you feel about this? Instead of saying, hey, what do you think about this? Like, these basic prompts, just like ChatGPT, allows the person to open up in the language model that they know. Very often we go into relationships thinking we're going to date another version of ourselves. I definitely do date other versions of myself, and I always say my girlfriends are better versions of myself, or I only sleep with better versions of myself. So I believe in, and this goes against everything anyone will teach. The things I teach is the opposite of everyone is teaching anyway. And that's why these methods work so well. I believe in, when it comes to finding your partner, instead of polarity, I go for similarity. Like, I'm well into dating my best friends. Like, I have a default setting, which is only sleep with strong, inspiring women that enrich my life. Let's turn that around for a woman, for example. Only sleep with strong, inspiring men that enrich my life. Is that a default setting for everyone or anyone? That's an option. You should have that as a mantra, rather than all men are emotionally unavailable. So, with this line of work, I have helped millions of people around the world, online, in real life, hundreds of thousands, because I just travel the world doing this. It's been 10 years. And the way the world is going, I'm not going to be out of work. Because now there's more isolation than ever. And these phones are fucking us up. Like, really bad. There's a whole generation of kids now who ghosting is just normal for them. They don't go to the hard, uncomfortable places. So my job is to help people heal. Help men and women connect. Like, the bulk of my work these days is actually helping men. Teaching men how to do what I do. Helping men overcome erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation, and erectile dysfunction. And women have said, Shaft, you need to help men. You need to help men harness their sexual energy and actually be at peace and more present within themselves, so they could bring more love and more presence into our relationship. And that is my mission, to find world peace through intimacy, so there's no more blaming and shaming between men and women, but transparent communication, shared vulnerability, so we could actually start having and creating heaven on earth. And it's possible. There's a lot of people here now from Tantra Island, Koh Phangan. Niraj is one of them. Layla Martin used to be there. Like, there's all these people coming from these strange places around the world where we don't wear shoes or clothes. We just make love all day, every day, and reach God. There is heaven on earth everywhere. But now we're in the major cities and we're trying to help people. Help people to connect, to find intimacy, to find depth, to find deep connection that is fulfilling and nurturing. To create spaces that is healing and nurturing. To help with the epidemic of isolation. Like, I live in major cities now, and I'm connected to these devices now because of the lack of community and connection. So, if you're in pain, if you're feeling numbness or tension when you're making love, find me. Let's have a conversation. Let's work together. Find an expert, someone who's been doing this for at least a decade, someone that you trust. There's people out there that could help you at the level that you're in. I'm just a few steps ahead because I've been doing this for a long time. And this is just one piece of your human experience. Some people don't think it's that important. But if all life comes from that one piece that isn't that important, you might want to look into the way you're looking at life. Because this bit is important. And that's your sexual energy, your life force energy. So thank you so much. I've been Shaft Uddin, talking about the power of Yoni worship. I was talking about methods and reasons why, and hopefully this inspires you to go deep into your own healing journey. I'm here as a mentor and a guide and a coach, and I don't identify as a healer. I'm more of an entertainer, transformational rock star. But I still run my business and my practice to help men and women heal their sexual trauma so they could become transformational rock stars and impact leaders. So any questions, I'd love to hear from you. You can find me on my online courses where all of this is automated, is on tantrawithshaft.com. If you want one-to-one healing or one-to-one coaching, you find me on sacredsexualawakening.com. And I live on Instagram, YouTube at Shaft Uddin. And if you want my detailed stuff, I also live on OnlyFans, which is the Shaft on there as well. So thank you, I love you, and I set you free.